Do you know what an acre looks like or how big it is? We didn't when we first moved out here. We had no concept of what an acre consisted of. Whenever you're planning out your farm or your homestead, it's important to have an idea of how big an acre actually it is, because a lot of things that you might be looking at might have certain size requirements for what you want to do. Depending on what your goals are and your dreams are, you might need 20 acres, you might need 1/4 of an acre. It all depends on what you're planning. So let's start with an overview of what acreage looks like here in central Oklahoma.
We're going to start with a top-down approach to what acreage looks like. If you've ever flown above the United States, especially the central part of the country, it's real flat, a lot of farmland. You might see a checkerboard pattern, kind of like what you see here on the screen. And the checkerboard can be various colors, greens and browns and maybe some blacks, tans. The checkerboard's there for a reason. I'm not going to give a history lesson on how the land was surveyed and how it was broken up and why it was broken up the way it was. That's not the point of this, and quite frankly, I don't know that. I know here in central Oklahoma, especially close to where we live, the land is broken down pretty simply. And so here you have this checkerboard pattern. And you see some north-south lines, north is pointed up, east and west lines. And what these lines are is these lines are actually roads. The majority of them are going to be roads. Some accessible, some not accessible. But you have these roads that break up these squares and delineate these squares. Now, each of these squares is referred to as a section, and we'll zoom into what a section looks like. And this is an example of a section, and this is actually the section that we live on and our farm is on, and we'll get to that in a minute. A section is approximately 1 mile by 1 mile, and it consists of 640 acres. So this one square that you see on the screen is combined 640 acres. Now, a lot of times what these sections will do is they will be broken up into quarters. And so you have 4 quarters within the section. Now, sometimes these quarters are fenced, sometimes they're not. It depends on what the landowner is doing with it. If there's animals on it, then it's probably going to be fenced. If there's not animals on it, then you might not find a fence. If we zoom in to what a quarter looks like, a quarter section is approximately a 1/2 mile by 1/2 mile, and it's 160 acres. And so you go from the 640 for the whole section, a quarter section is 160 acres. And so our farm is located right in the upper right corner of this quarter section, boxed off right here. And we have about 20 acres, and the size of this is about 620 feet by 1,306 feet. Now, acres can be different depending on how the land is, especially where you're at. Here in central Oklahoma, it's nice and square and symmetrical, but if you go into the eastern part of the state where it's hilly and mountainous, it's not going to necessarily be these types of squares and this type of layout. And so what you might find is where you're at, the acreage is not nice and neat. So this quarter section was actually broken up into 2 different sections. And so this quarter section actually consists of 2 80-acre sections to equal 160 acres. And the portion of our farm that we're occupying is 20 acres. And that's about 620 feet by 1,306 feet. And you see that boxed off on the top right-hand side. And so here we are on our farm, and I have measured out what an acre is, what 2 acres is, and what 3 acres is. And so this first photo is 1 acre, and 1 acre consists of 43,560 square feet. And so it roughly equals 208 feet by 208 feet if you're doing a square, if you're making a square. And that's what this represents right here, is about 208 by 208. So the truck is in the middle. It's a crew cab pickup truck, full-size pickup truck, to give you an idea of scale. I'm standing right there controlling the drone, so you get an idea of how big an acre is. 2 acres is 87,120 square feet, and it's roughly 295 feet by 295 feet if you're doing a square. Again, truck's in the middle, I'm behind it. Gives you a good idea of scale and how big 2 acres actually is. And lastly, 3 acres. 3 acres is about 130,680 square feet, and it's 361 feet by about 361 feet. Again, truck's in the middle, I'm behind the truck. You got this 14-foot grain bin that we're using as our chicken coop, and then our hoop coop. I don't remember the size of the hoop coop that's inside of it. 3 acres is a lot of space, and you can do a lot.
Hopefully this information has given you an idea of what an acre looks like and how big it actually is. And hopefully it helps you with your planning for your farm or your homestead. Thanks for watching, and as always, stay rooted.